Hello, fellas and ladies. I'm going to review Kinds of Kindness, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film, and this one is an anthology, and it follows three different stories that don't connect at all. Basically, I just described an anthology. I like Kinds of Kindness quite a bit, but there's no universe where this is top two Yorgos. This is his first film in some time where he's co-writing the film with Ethemis Philippou. Their collaborations include The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, Dogtooth. Like those films, Kinds of Kindness is a contemporary film, has a bizarre sense of humor, and the tone is a very dark and dreary comedy. Now, many of you were probably introduced to Yorgos through his two recent films where he collaborated with writer Tony McNamara with The Favourite and Poor Things. Those tones were much sillier and also had more broadly accessible appeal. So with that, I say, if you're going into this with the expectation that it's like Poor Things and The Favourite, you're in for some strong negative feelings. Because Kinds of Kindness truly feels like a return to form for Yorgos in many ways. Not that I have a preference in which mode Yorgos is in, but I was thrilled to go back to his roots as a cynical ass filmmaker. Not to say that this movie is perfect, not by a long shot. Like I said, the movie is split into three separate stories. You can look pretty closely, but other than a couple of plotting similarities and one noticeable factor, there's nothing that connects these stories together. And even the one noticeable factor I was talking about isn't like a pivotal thing, it's just a funny detail thrown in. Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, Hong Chow, Joe Alwyn, Mamadou Athie, they all play a different character in all three of the stories. Hunter Schafer only appears at the beginning of the third story, by the way. And while I did enjoy the experience as a whole, and I liked all three stories, my enjoyment of them certainly wavered from story to story. The first one is very clean in my mind. It was funny, it was dark, it was interesting to watch unfold. Honestly, kinda no notes. The second story, I can't lie, it kinda lost me. I was once again entertained watching it go south, but there's a shift in character for Jesse Plemons' character halfway through that made me go, did I miss something? I thought the second one had interesting ideas and concepts that didn't reach its potential, but overall I was entertained. Last one was arguably the most thematically interesting. Like, of the three, if Yorgos made this a feature, I'd be interested in watching this one the most. It did kind of feel like the most stuffed, but I thought it worked. If I had to rank the three, I'd probably go 1, 3, 2. The thing I like most about this movie is Yorgos' comedic direction. It doesn't have the obviously wacky and colorful sheen that Poor Things had, and all things considered. The movie looks like any other contemporary movie. And yet the movie and the characters seem to behave and speak to each other in a way that seems to fit Yorgos Lanthimos' weird rules. They'll openly speak to each other with no filter attached, as if discussing the weather. Yorgos added a lot of silly details throughout the film that made me laugh. One example is in the third story, Emma Stone's character is an inexplicably reckless driver. Doesn't really match the mannerisms and tone of the character, and yet Yorgos insists on giving attention to that. That's a lot of the humor of this movie. I wouldn't say the movie had a lot of jokes, and yet I laughed a lot. I laughed at the increasingly crazy escalations in each story. At some point in each story, the shit just hits the fan, and even when I wasn't in love with it, I couldn't help but have a laugh. I also want to give a shout out to the lavish production design and Jerskin Fendrix's very unique score that helped elevate some of the more tense moments. It also helps that the entire ensemble is all in on the tone Yorgos is trying for, and they're all like super committed to this vision. Clear as day to me that Yorgos and Emma Stone are like just a power pairing, and she is pretty fantastic here. However, the standouts to me are Willem Dafoe and Jesse Plemons. Willem Dafoe in particular seemed to have the most range from story to story. I love that Yorgos casted Willem as just a guy instead of a freak boy for the second story, but his Willem Dafoe-isms are fully utilized here, and it's always a treat. He brought a smile to my face whenever he was on screen. If you had to pick a lead in this movie, I guess it would be Jesse Plemons. He is the lead of the first two stories, and he has a pretty significant role in the third. And he plays all three roles how you would expect Plemons to play, and I say that totally complimentary. First story in particular, I think we get to see him behave in ways that I would argue is the most against type for Plemons, and that I've seen from him so far. That all said, while I did have a lot of fun laughing along with the film, I did kind of feel empty afterwards. Like, I didn't really take anything away from Kinds of Kindness beyond like freak entertainment. Even at Yorgos' most cynical, I always felt I took something away from those, and with this I just felt nothing. Kind of felt like another anthology film, The French Dispatch. Like in that film, I do kind of wonder if anything was meant to be taken away. Was it just Yorgos Lanthimos dumping ideas he had that weren't big enough for feature length into one film? If that's the case, then I don't know, success I suppose. Unlike French Dispatch, I did have fun with this, and I do feel like a second viewing would actually be beneficial, especially with the second story. The overall vibe I got was that Yorgos was maybe indulging himself just a tad too much. Nonetheless, I did have fun with Kinds of Kindness. At 2 hours and 24 minutes, the movie flies by thanks to the cast and Yorgos' attention to detail, making way for some pretty hard belly laughs and entertainment value, even if the movie doesn't really get at much else beyond that. This is certainly not top tier Yorgos Lanthimos by any means, and I'm going to give Kinds of Kindness 7 mustachio Jesse Plemons out of 10. I guess I'll have a brief talk about Oscars. This is a goose egg waiting to happen. The mode Yorgos is on is not the same mode that the Academy embraced with Poor Things and The Favorite. People will probably march on and say, well, The Lobster got screenplay. Maybe this can too. Or Jesse Plemons one can. If you wanted to consider this movie anywhere, it would be those two, I suppose, and I won't totally shut down those theories. In fact, I don't think it'll happen, but I'm willing to have a conversation about Jesse Plemons getting it for supporting actor. But the movie isn't quite acclaimed enough to make up for the shortcomings or the bizarreness, and it just makes me think the Academy will reject Yorgos this time around. Alright, that's that. Kinds of Kindness. Bada bing, bada boom. Take it home with you. Like, subscribe, and share. Yeah.